Chapter 1. Chapter 1. The whispers of dusk on the Nile in the soft, sleepy embrace of the fading sun, where the ancient, life-giving waters of the mighty Nile River flowed with a timeless rhythm, there lived a plump little baby hippo named Happy. Happy was not just any hippo. Happy was a hippo who deeply, truly loved the cool, calming waters of the Grand River, especially as the long, sun-drenched day began. Its slow, gentle slumber and the vast, overarching sky above them began to paint itself in the most wonderful, softest shades of glowing orange, tender rose, and the faintest blush of lavender. This quiet, magical hour, often called dusk by the creatures of the riverbanks and the humans who farmed the rich soil, was, without a shadow of a doubt, Happy's absolute favorite time of all. During these precious moments, Happy would often be found nestled snugly, almost completely tucked, right beside Mama Hippo. Mama Hippo was a magnificent creature herself, with a broad, comforting back and eyes that held the wisdom of countless sunsets. Together, they would watch the world around them slowly, peacefully prepare for the coming night. The air, which had been buzzing with the lively sounds of the day, the busy chatter of kingfishers, the distant cries of eagles, and the cheerful chirps of crickets, began to soften, filling instead with the incredibly subtle, soft rustle of the tall, elegant papyrus reeds that lined the riverbanks. These reeds, swaying ever so gently in the cooling evening breeze, seemed to whisper to one another, their movements creating a sound like sleepy, murmured secrets, or perhaps quiet, reassuring lullabies. Happy, with large, curious ears, would strain to hear these papyrus whispers, wondering what ancient tales they might be sharing. And then, from a distance, carried on the gentle currents of the evening air, Happy could just hear the faint, sweet lullaby of a farmer singing. This was not a loud, boisterous song, but a soft, rhythmic melody, a hum more than a tune that seemed to drift from the verdant fields where the farmer had toiled all day. It was a song as old and as comforting as the very flow of the river itself, a song of gratitude and hope, sung to the rich earth and the nascent crops. It was a sound that told Happy, without words, that all was well, that life continued, and that the world was a place of gentle, enduring beauty. This was the great Nile, Happy understood, not just a river, but a living, breathing entity, the giver of life to all who dwelled along its boundless banks. And Happy, though still so very young, barely a tiny ripple in the vast expanse of the river's history already, felt its quiet, profound magic stirring deep within their plump little heart, a warmth that settled pleasantly beneath their tough, protective skin. As the sun, a colossal fiery orb throughout the day, dipped lower and lower towards the western horizon, it began to perform its most spectacular evening show. The sky transformed into a breathtaking canvas, painted with streaks of shimmering gold that seemed to melt directly into the placid, deep purple hues that stretched across the water's surface. The Nile itself became a magnificent mirror, reflecting every single brushstroke of the setting sun with perfect clarity, turning the calm surface into a vast liquid masterpiece of color and light. Happy watched, mesmerized, their small, dark eyes wide with unadulterated wonder, as the brilliant colors danced and shimmered, shifting and blending in a silent, grand farewell to the day. It was during these truly awe-inspiring moments, just as the last blazing sliver of the sun began to slip beneath the distant, hazy line of the horizon, that the first tiny pinpricks of light began to appear in the vast, darkening dome above. One by one, then two by two, and then a scattering of countless others, the twinkling stars emerged from the deepening blue. And what an astonishing sight it was for Happy to see these brand-new celestial jewels reflecting with such exquisite perfection in the calm, mirror-like surface of the river below. It was as if the river was trying to gather every single star from the sky into its cool, welcoming embrace, holding them close, making them feel at home. Happy would often let out a soft, delighted squeak, a sound like a tiny, bubbling sigh, at the sight of these inverted constellations sparkling so serenely just beneath their very snout. Sometimes, Happy would try to touch one with a curious little toe, only to find the water cool and yielding, the star merely a reflection, yet no less magical for its illusion. With a deep, resonant rumble, a sound like distant thunder but filled with the warmest affection, Mama Hippo would gently, ever so gently, nudge Happy. Her large, loving snout, surprisingly soft against Happy's smooth, damp skin, would point towards the western horizon, where the last vibrant echoes of the sun had just vanished, leaving behind a lingering blush of orange and violet. Her voice, a low, comforting murmur, was like the very sound of the river itself, deep and flowing. "Look, my little Happy," Mama Hippo would whisper, her words carrying the weight of ancient tales. "The great sun, Ra, has just completed his daily journey across our sky." But Ra does not rest, not truly. No, for Ra journeys onward through the dark pathways of the night sky, carried in his magnificent sunboat. Happy's eyes, already wide with wonder at the stars, grew even wider, fixed intently on Mama Hippo's knowing gaze. "The sunboat," Mama continued, her voice weaving a tapestry of mystery and reassurance, "carries Ra through the deepest, darkest hours, through the land of the unseen, so that he may be reborn, fresh and bright, in the eastern sky at dawn. He makes this great journey every single night, without fail, to bring us the morning light, to warm our backs, and to help our papyrus reeds grow tall and strong, and to ensure that our beautiful Nile continues to flow, bringing life to all of us." Happy listened, every cell of their young body absorbing Mama Hippo's words. The idea of the sun, not just disappearing, but undertaking a grand, hidden journey through the unseen world, filled Happy with a profound sense of awe. It wasn't just about the sun, it was about the purpose behind its disappearance, the promise of its return, carried by a celestial boat. And as Happy contemplated the sunboat of Ra, a new thought, as vast and endless as the horizon itself, began to unfurl in their young mind. Happy wondered about this great, nightly journey of the sun, a journey of unseen purpose and unwavering commitment. But Happy also wondered, even more deeply, about the river's eye-owned, endless journey. The Nile, always flowing, always moving, from sources far, far away, through lands Happy could barely imagine, always giving, always nurturing. It was a silent mystery, this river, beneath the vast star-strewn sky. Where did it begin? Where did it end? What secrets did it hold in its deep, cool currents? It flowed ceaselessly, a continuous ribbon of life, always offering, never taking back, a boundless giver. This quiet, ceaseless motion was a riddle Happy hadn't even known to ask until now, a profound realization that settled gently in their heart like a smooth river stone. The river, like the sun, had its own unwavering path, its own ancient rhythm, its own profound purpose. As the last vestiges of twilight surrendered to the deeper hues of night, and the first cool breath of the evening air brushed softly against Happy's sensitive skin, a deep, pervasive sense of peace settled over the plump little hippo. It was a peace that felt as ancient and comforting as the Nile itself, a feeling of absolute rightness and belonging. Happy was surrounded, not just by the physical warmth of Mama Hippo's immense body, her gentle breathing a rhythmic counterpoint to the soft lapping of the water, but by the gentle, comforting rhythms of nature itself. The hushed whispers of the papyrus, the distant, faint lullaby of the farmer, the silent, twinkling dance of the stars both above and below, all these elements wove together into a perfect symphony of the natural world preparing for rest. Nestled close, so very close, to Mama Hippo, feeling the familiar, reassuring warmth of her immense side, Happy felt utterly safe, utterly loved, and utterly, profoundly at peace. The quiet awe that Happy felt for the Nile, for its endless, unwavering flow, for its boundless, life-giving essence, and for the subtle, profound mysteries it seemed to hold within its calm, reflective surface, gently and beautifully set the stage for a story. It was a story not just about adventures, but about observing and understanding the world around them, truly seeing the intricate tapestry of life. Happy, even at such a tender age, began to grasp, however instinctively, how even the quietest, most seemingly insignificant moments could hold the greatest wisdom, how a simple sunset could reveal profound truths. This quiet, contemplative evening, steeped in the soothing embrace of the Nile, was preparing Happy, without Happy even realizing it, for a subtle, internal journey of discovery, a journey that the gentle, ever-flowing Nile itself would, in its own wise and silent way, lovingly guide. And as Happy finally drifted off to sleep, feeling the faint rhythmic pulse of the river beneath them, Dreams of shimmering sunboats and flowing starlight began to dance gently behind their closed eyelids. Chapter 2. The last golden kiss of the sun lingered on the horizon, painting the vast Egyptian sky in the softest, most tender hues of rose, lavender, and a deep, blushing orange. Little Happy the hippo, a truly contented soul, floated with a gentle, almost imperceptible sway in the cool, comforting embrace of the mighty Nile. His broad back, usually a patchwork of mud and river debris from his playful daytime adventures, was now smoothed by the evening current, glistening faintly under the fading light. Every part of him, from the tips of his surprisingly nimble toes to the curious twitch of his ears, felt perfectly settled, perfectly at peace. Chapter 1 had seen him finding just the right spot, a small, quiet eddy where the water swirled lazily, cradling him like a beloved pebble. Now, with the day's bustling energy finally receding and the world around him beginning its nightly slumber, Happy's naturally curious ears, those wonderfully sensitive little funnels perched atop his head, began to pick up new and enchanting sounds. Swish, swish, whisper, whisper. It was a sound so soft, so delicate, it was almost like the river itself was breathing a secret sigh. Happy, his large, gentle eyes reflecting the dying light, slowly, ever so slowly, turned his massive head. He didn't splash or stir the water much, for even in his curiosity, Happy moved with a graceful thoughtfulness, and there they were, swaying in unison along the riverbanks, reaching skyward like emerald sentinels, tall, slender papyrus reeds. They stood in dense, ancient clumps, their feathery tops brushing against each other, creating that mesmerizing, hushed sound. It wasn't a sharp rustle, no, nothing alarming or sudden. It was a gentle, rhythmic sigh, a continuous soothing murmur that spoke of soft breezes weaving through countless leafy fingers. Each whisper seemed to carry a tiny, untold story from the river's heart, a tale only the nighttime winds and the patient reeds truly knew. Happy felt a deep, instinctive connection to their ancient rhythm, as if their quiet song was a part of the river's own lullaby. He watched, utterly captivated, as the last slivers of sunlight caught the dew on their stalks, making them shimmer with a fleeting pearlescent glow before darkness fully embraced them. As his gaze drifted lower, Happy noticed the small, silent world thriving within the reedy shallows. Tiny, darting fish, no bigger than Happy's smallest nail, flashed like animated jewels between the shadowy, submerged stalks. They were sleek, silver, and quick, playing a silent game of hide-and-seek, their tiny tails flicking sprays of miniature pearls into the air. They seemed utterly fearless, knowing the reeds offered them a safe, leafy sanctuary from the deeper, larger parts of the river. And then, standing with an almost unbelievable stillness, a graceful heron appeared. It was a vision of patient elegance, its long, spindly legs plunged deep into the water, each joint moving with an unhurried precision that spoke of eons of quiet observation. Its long, pointed beak, a perfect fishing tool, was poised, ready for the smallest flicker of movement in the water. Bathed now in the soft, nascent glow of the rising moon, the heron was a silent, watchful guardian, a patient hunter. Yet, somehow, to Happy's wondering eyes, it was also just another member of this vast, wonderful family that called the river home. The fish, the heron, the swaying reeds, and Happy himself, all part of the same grand, watery embrace. A profound feeling of belonging, warm and comforting as a blanket, settled over Happy. He was not just Happy, the little hippo, he was Happy, a cherished thread in the vibrant tapestry of the Nile. But soon, another sound, even more wonderful, began to drift across the water, carrying on the gentle, barely there breeze. It was a sound that made Happy's already warm chest feel even warmer, a sound that seemed to hum directly into his very core. It was a soft, lilting melody, woven with simple, heartfelt words. Lallaloo, my sleepy land, and the river's gift in nature's hand. Beneath the stars the waters flow, and all our grateful spirits grow. Happy recognized it. He tilted his head, his ears swiveling slightly to capture every precious note. It was the voice of a kind farmer, a gentle soul from far down the bank, whose small patch of green glowed like a jeweled carpet by the river's edge. Happy had sometimes heard him singing during the day, a cheerful, robust tune as he tended his fields. But this This was different. This was a lullaby, sung not just to his growing crops or his dozing livestock, but to the precious, giving earth itself. It was a song of deep, abiding gratitude for the benevolent Nile, which, with its unending generosity, brought life and nourishment to every single thing along its banks. The farmer's voice was warm and resonant, like the deep hum of a happy beetle, yet soft and comforting, like the flutter of a moth's wings. Each note seemed to ripple across the water, touching the reeds, passing over Happy, and then continuing on, a melodic message of thanks to the ancient river. Happy imagined the farmer, perhaps sitting by his humble dwelling, watching the same stars begin to emerge, his heart full of peace and thankfulness for the water that quenched his thirst, watered his fields, and allowed his family to thrive. It wasn't just a song, it was a prayer, a blessing, whispered from one grateful heart to the vast, giving heart of the river. A wonderfully warm, fuzzy feeling spread through Happy's chest, like a tiny sunbeam warming a sleepy flower. It started as a gentle glow right behind his breastbone and slowly expanded, filling him with a sense of utter contentment and connection. It was the feeling of being loved, of being part of something bigger and infinitely good. As the farmer's melody gently faded into the vast silence of the night, the first bright stars began to sparkle in the deep velvet sky. They weren't just tiny pinpricks of light, they were brilliant, shimmering jewels scattered across the inky canvas above. And what a magnificent sight it was! Happy gazed up, his eyes wide with wonder, as those celestial diamonds began to reflect like countless scattered treasures on the river's calm, dark surface. Each reflection was a perfect miniature star, dancing and winking on the gentle ripples, creating a glittering underwater sky as well as an overhead one. Happy, who loved to dream big and wonderful dreams, imagined them not just as stars, but as the tiny, powerful lights from Ra's mighty sun boat. He pictured the grand golden vessel of Ra, the great sun god, sailing gracefully across the heavens, pulling the sun across the sky by day, and charting the mysteries of the cosmos by night. Each twinkling star, he thought, was a little piece of magic left in its wake, a sprinkle of stardust and dreams, shimmering down for everyone to see. The very thought filled him with a quiet joy, knowing that this magic, this wonder, was not just for the gods or the grandest creatures, but for Happy, the fish, the heron, the reeds, and even the kind farmer. It was for everyone, a shared universal gift under the vast watchful eye of the Egyptian sky. This gentle star-dusted night, full of soft sounds and twinkling lights, brought a deep, profound realization to little Happy's heart. It was a gentle awakening, a quiet understanding that settled within him like the last, soft feather drifting down onto calm waters. The Nile wasn't just a river, a place to swim and play and find good mud. Oh no, it was so much more. It was a living, breathing song, a grand, ancient symphony composed of the rustle of reeds, the splash of fish, the calls of night birds, the humming lullabies of grateful farmers, and the silent, shimmering dance of the stars. It was a song of connection, flowing ceaselessly, effortlessly binding everyone and everything along its banks. The humble fish, the stately heron, the patient reeds, the singing farmer, and Happy himself, all were part of this unending melody, connected by the generous, flowing water. It flowed not just with water, but with ancient wisdom, whispering tales of life, of patience, of generosity, of the interconnectedness of all living things. It was a wisdom that made the whole world feel like one big, peaceful family, nestled safely under the vast, star-strewn Egyptian sky. Happy let out a tiny, contented sigh, a soft puff of air that barely disturbed the still surface of the water. He snuggled a little deeper into the cool, comforting embrace of the Nile, feeling perfectly, utterly content. The warmth from the farmer's song still hummed within him, and the whispers of the reeds seemed to echo the peaceful rhythm of his own beating heart. He was deeply connected to this gentle journey, to the ancient flow of the river, and to the quiet magic of the night. And he knew, with a certainty that bubbled up from his happy heart, that many, many more wonderful secrets of the Nile were yet to be discovered. But for tonight, this was enough. More than enough. This was perfect. Chapter 3. Chapter 3. The lullaby of the reeds as the golden sun, a magnificent, weary traveller, began its slow, Deliberate dip below the vast, shimmering desert horizon, the world around Fennec Fox seemed to take a deep, contented breath. The sky, which had gleamed a brilliant, cloudless blue just moments before, now softened into the most tender shades of apricot and rose, then deepened into a glorious tapestry of fiery orange and a whisper of plum at the very edges. It was a painting, truly, unfurling itself across the heavens, just for Fennec to see, just for the world to witness. The warmth of the day, which had clung to every grain of sand and every sun-baked stone, slowly, ever so gently, began to yield. It wasn't a sudden chill, oh no, but a gradual, quiet surrender to the cool, quiet embrace of the evening, like a sleepy child settling deeper into a soft, inviting bed. Fennec, with his wonderfully large, attentive ears, had chosen his very own special spot for this magnificent transformation. It was nestled deep, deep within a thicket of tall, swaying papyrus reeds, right on the gentle bank of the mighty Nile. These reeds, so green and verdant, stood like friendly sentinels, swaying with a soft, rhythmic grace that made Fennec feel safe and perfectly hidden. Their whispery tops, feathery and light, brushed against each other with a sound like 100 tiny secrets being shared. It was a spot where the last lingering kisses of the sun still warmed the earth, but where the promise of the coming night brought with it a different kind of comfort. He settled himself, curling his sleek, sandy-colored body into a perfect, snug crescent, his nose tucked into his fluffy tail. His eyes, dark and bright, watched as the very last rays of sunlight, like playful golden fingers, danced upon the surface of the great river. The water, calm and wide, shimmered and sparkled with every tiny ripple, catching the light and breaking it into 1,000 tiny diamonds, each one winking and blinking a silent goodbye to the day. It was a sight so beautiful, so mesmerizing, that Fennec felt his own little heart settle into a peaceful, steady rhythm. And then he listened. Oh, how he listened! The air was alive with sounds, yet they were not loud or jarring. There was the soft, almost imperceptible whoosh of the papyrus reeds as a gentle breeze, like a sigh from the very heart of the desert, drifted by. It was a sound so soothing, so continuous, that it seemed to Fennec as if the great river Nile itself was humming a quiet, ancient tune, a lullaby whispered just for the sleepy world. This was a time for quiet thoughts, for gentle observation, for simply being quiet. The world, so busy and bustling during the day, seemed to hold its breath now, settling into a peaceful, profound calm. It was just like in the old, treasured bedtime stories, the ones where everything slows down, and the most important discoveries are made in the quietest moments. Everything felt just right, perfectly balanced, as the day gently folded itself into night. Then, as the sky deepened to a wondrous inky blue, a color so rich and deep it seemed spun from midnight itself, the first twinkling stars began to peek through. One by one, then two by two, then a whole sparkling handful, they appeared, like tiny, curious eyes opening to watch over the sleeping world. They were distant, yet so bright, so comforting in their steadfast presence. And it was just as the very first, boldest star winked down at him that Fennec heard something new, something that made his wonderfully large ears perk right up, swiveling independently like tiny living radar dishes to catch every nuance of the sound. It wasn't the usual chorus of the desert night. It wasn't the chirping of crickets, those tireless little musicians beginning their nightly serenade. Nor was it the deep, rumbling croaking of the frogs calling to each other from the water's edge. No, this sound was different. It was a soft, steady singing, drifting on the cool, clean air from far, far down the riverbank. It was a gentle, low melody, like a hum, a wordless tune that carried with it a feeling of warmth and contentment. The notes floated over the water, skipping lightly from reed to reed, as if carried on the wings of the evening breeze itself, right to Fennec's listening ears. Fennec tilted his head, his brow furrowed in a moment of delightful wonder. Who could be singing such a sweet, simple song at this quiet time? He thought of the village further down the river, the one he sometimes saw from a distance. Perhaps, he mused, it was a farmer, one of the kind, industrious people who tended their green fields right beside the Nile. Yes, that seemed right. A farmer, perhaps, singing a lullaby to his crops, wishing them sweet growth under the gentle gaze of the moon and stars. Or perhaps, just perhaps, it was a song sung to his sleeping family, a melody of gratitude for the day's blessings and a loving wish for peaceful dreams. It was a song born not of grand words or complicated tunes, but of a simple, profound love for the world, for life, and for all that makes it beautiful. This sound, this gentle human melody carried on the cool evening air, seemed to wrap itself around Fenwick like the softest, warmest, most comforting blanket woven from moonlight and kindness. He felt it settle over his small body, a quiet warmth spreading through him from the tips of his ears to the pads of his paws. It was a feeling of being embraced, of being connected. And in that moment, as the song continued its soft, steady flow, it showed Fenwick something truly wonderful and true, that, even though the night was vast and quiet, stretching out endlessly above him, there was a gentle, loving connection flowing through everything. It was a thread, invisible yet strong, linking the ancient land, the mighty river, the hard-working farmer, and even a little desert fox nestled in the reeds. It was all one big, beautiful, interconnected tapestry of life, woven with threads of gratitude and peace. In that quiet, starlit moment, as the farmer's lullaby continued its soft echo down the river, Fenwick lifted his gaze to the sky. He watched the ancient, distant stars, those timeless jewels, reflect perfectly in the calm, dark water of the Nile. Each star, a tiny pinprick of light from eons away, found its perfect mirror image in the river's depths, creating a second, shimmering sky beneath him. And as he watched this silent, sparkling dance, a profound realization bloomed within Fenwick's heart, a wisdom as old as the desert itself. The Nile, he understood with a clarity that felt like sunshine breaking through clouds, wasn't just water flowing between two banks. Oh no, it was so much more. It was the very heart of everything. It was the pulsing, life-giving beat that sustained all. It brought life to the rustling papyrus reeds that now sheltered him, making them green and strong. It nourished the distant farmers' fields, allowing the grains to ripen and the dates to sweeten, providing sustenance and joy. And it brought life, vibrant, hopeful life, even to a little desert fox like him, watching the night sky from his cozy spot. The river was the beginning and the end, the giver and the sustainer, the quiet force that allowed all things to flourish. The river's gentle, unwavering rhythm, the constant soothing whoosh and whisper of the papyrus reeds, the distant farmers, peaceful, heartfelt song, and the timeless, watchful stars above, they all, Fenwick realized, sang the very same sweet tune. It was a song of peace, a song of connection, a song of the quiet, steady flow of life. It spoke of how everything belonged, how everything was intertwined, how every living thing, from the smallest beetle to the greatest hippopotamus, from the greenest leaf to the brightest star, played a part in this grand, harmonious symphony of existence. And as Fenwick Fox, feeling incredibly small yet wonderfully significant, curled up just a little bit tighter in his cozy reed nest, a soft, contented sigh escaped him. He felt safe, truly safe, and deeply, undeniably part of this big, beautiful, ancient world. He understood, with the simple wisdom that only quiet observation can bring, that sometimes the most profound and comforting wisdom doesn't come from grand adventures or loud pronouncements. No, sometimes the deepest truths come from simply watching the sun set, listening to the gentle breeze through the reeds, hearing a faraway song, and feeling the quiet, steady beat of nature's everlasting heart. And with that peaceful thought, Fenwick closed his eyes, ready for sweet dreams under the watchful, loving gaze of the desert night. Chapter 4. The sun, a fiery orange ball just moments before, had now dipped fully, completely, utterly behind the distant, sleepy, golden dunes. Its last lingering rays stretched across the vast, wide sky, painting it in the most magnificent, breathtaking hues imaginable. First, a deep, velvety violet began to creep in from the edges, chasing away the last whispers of peach and rose. Then, as if a magic artist had dipped a colossal brush into a pot of shimmering ink, waves of rich, dusky indigo bled into the violet, creating a celestial tapestry that seemed to hum with silent secrets. The very air, which had been warm and bustling with the sounds of daytime, now began to cool, carrying with it the fresh, clean scent of the river water and the earthy fragrance of the damp reeds. Little Happy the hippo calf, his skin still delightfully warm from the day's sun, wiggled his plump body deeper into the soft, whispering riverside reeds. They tickled his nose just a little, a familiar, comforting sensation. Beside him, Fennec the fox, his clever ears swiveling just slightly, found his own perfectly cozy spot, curling his bushy tail around his slender legs. A different kind of quiet, a profound and peaceful hush, began to settle over the mighty Nile, unbroken now save for the rhythmic, gentle lapping of water against the banks. It was a sound like a soft, never-ending whisper, a secret shared between the river and the gathering night. Happy, ever so curious, his mind always buzzing with questions about the wide, wonderful world around him, twitched his small, perfectly formed ears. He listened to the soft lapping, the distant chirp of a cricket, the almost imperceptible rustle of the leaves overhead. It was so different from the bustling midday, when the river shimmered under the sun, and hippos splashed and fish jumped and birds sang. He tilted his head, his wide, innocent eyes fixed on the darkening surface of the water. "Fennec," he whispered, his voice a soft, breathy sound, no louder than the gentle rustle of a papyrus leaf caught in a lazy breeze. "The river looks so different now, so still, so quiet. Does it ever sleep like we do? Like Mama Hippo says I must do every night?" Happy thought about his own cozy bed of reeds, the feeling of his eyes growing heavy, the sweet, soft slide into dreams. Surely something as grand and busy as the Nile River needed its sleep too, after all its hard work flowing all day long. Did it snuggle down into its bed of banks and close its water eyes for a long, peaceful nap? Or did it just keep flowing, always, endlessly, even when the stars came out? Fennec, with a wise and knowing flick of his magnificent tail, didn't answer with words. He rarely did, preferring to let the world itself speak its lessons. Instead, he gently, ever so gently, nudged Happy's attention towards the shimmering, inky black water. The surface, which had seemed so still just moments before, now pulsed with a faint, almost imperceptible current. And just then, as if the river itself had heard Happy's thoughtful question and decided to answer it in its own special way, a family of sleepy, silver-sided fish appeared. They were not darting and leaping like they did during the bright sunshine hours. Oh no. These were late-night wanderers, guided by the unseen, gentle currents, gliding past with a slow, deliberate grace. Their scales, catching the faint first hint of starlight that was beginning to prickle through the darkening sky, shimmered with a soft, ethereal glow, like scattered jewels moving through liquid velvet. They didn't seem to be sleeping at all, rather, they were moving with a quiet purpose, exploring the cool, shadowy depths of their nighttime home. Happy watched them go, his eyes wide, a tiny ooh escaping his lips. They weren't sleeping, they were living, just in a different way. Then, from the shadowed banks, a graceful, pure white egret, a creature of the dusk and dawn, appeared. It stepped into the shallow water with an elegant, almost impossibly slow movement. Its long, stick-thin legs, as delicate as porcelain, barely disturbed the surface of the Nile as it moved, its head held high, its sharp, knowing eyes scanning the water below. It wasn't playing or splashing or chattering like the daytime birds. It was searching, patiently and silently, for a late-night snack, its silhouette a stark, beautiful contrast against the deepening indigo of the water. Its very presence seemed to whisper, "The river provides. Always." The river, Happy suddenly realized with a rush of understanding that warmed his little heart, wasn't sleeping at all. Oh no, not even a tiny wink. It was simply shifting its tune, changing its rhythm, like a sleepy song slowing down, but never truly stopping. It was providing for the nighttime dwellers, the silent fish, the patient egrets, the unseen creatures of the deep, just as faithfully and generously as it did for the noisy, playful creatures of the daytime. This gentle problem of understanding the river's constant, unending activity, its endless giving, was softly, beautifully answered by the quiet, unfolding magic around them. Happy watched, utterly captivated, as the first clear, brilliant stars began to pop into view in the vast, inky blackness above, one by one, then in clusters, Then in shimmering constellations, they appeared, like diamonds scattered carelessly across a velvet cloth. And then, the truly magical part, these newly born stars, these tiny pinpricks of light in the infinite sky, mirrored themselves perfectly, precisely, in the Nile's calm, reflective surface. It was as if the river, with its gentle, quiet strength, held the entire twinkling sky in its cool, soft embrace. The sky above and the sky below became one, connected by the shimmering water, creating a silent, shimmering lullaby for all its creatures, big and small, day and night. A deep, profound warmth, like the last embers of a perfectly peaceful campfire, began to spread through Happy's little hippo heart. It wasn't just the physical warmth of Fennec's nearby presence or the residual heat from the day's sun. It was a feeling of being truly, completely, wonderfully part of something grand and endlessly giving. It was a sensation of belonging, of connection to this vast living world. He understood then, in that quiet, star-filled moment, that the Nile's gentle journey was not just for the sunlit hours when he splashed and played and learned. Oh no. It was a constant, comforting flow that cradled all life, every creature, every plant, every single moment, always. It was a steady, reliable presence that asked for nothing and gave everything. And, as the last golden rim of twilight faded completely, leaving only the deep indigo and the sparkling stars, Happy felt a deep, quiet kindness fill their gentle world. A kindness that flowed from the river itself, a kindness that reminded him he was safe, he was loved, and the world, even in its quietest moments, was always, always alive with wonder. He snuggled in a little deeper, a soft sigh escaping him. Tomorrow the sun would rise again, and the river would greet it with a whole new tune. But tonight, it sang a lullaby of starlight and constant, gentle giving, and Happy, his heart full, felt truly, wonderfully ready for sleep. Chapter 5. Chapter 5. The Quiet Revelation Under the Ancient Sky. The sun, a fiery ruby just moments before, had finally dipped below the distant horizon, taking with it the last whispers of daylight. Little Fennec, the desert fox with ears like delicate sails, felt the warm air of the Egyptian day give way to the cool, soft breath of the Nile night. Above him, the sky began its grand transformation. What had been a fading canvas of orange and rose now deepened into an indigo velvet, pricked by the first hesitant pinpricks of light. Then, as if a great cosmic hand had scattered diamonds, the stars burst forth, uncountable and breathtaking. Fennec sat very still on the sandy bank, his small body a mere silhouette against the vastness. The desert around him, usually a place of dry whispers and rustling sands, was now hushed. Only the faint, rhythmic lapping of the Nile against its banks broke the profound silence. Each star above him seemed to shine with its own tiny private lamp, and quite magically, each lamp found its perfect reflection in the still, dark mirror of the river below. It was a sight that stole Fennec's breath away, not with a gasp, but with a deep, silent wonder that settled in his very soul. He had journeyed far from his cozy burrow in the sun-baked dunes, drawn by the ancient, life-giving flow of the Nile. He had seen so much in his gentle journey: the graceful dip of a kingfisher, the patient vigil of a heron, the slow, deliberate glide of a crocodile, though that had made his little heart beat a bit faster, even from a safe distance. He had learned about the preciousness of water, the delicate balance of life, and the quiet rhythm that governed this grand ancient river. Every day had been a new lesson, every encounter a gentle revelation. He understood now why the river was called the Mother of Life by the creatures who lived along its banks. It was a constant, comforting presence, always flowing, always giving. Tonight, under the boundless, glittering dome of the sky, Fennec felt a different kind of lesson unfolding. He watched, mesmerized as a streak of light, a shooting star, arced silently across the dark canvas, leaving a shimmering ghost trail in its wake before vanishing into the cosmic tapestry. It was fleeting, beautiful, and utterly solitary in its journey across the heavens. And as he watched it disappear, a tiny, quiet whisper of loneliness seemed to brush against his heart. It wasn't a sad, tearful loneliness, but a gentle, almost wistful feeling. He felt so full of wonder, so brimming with the beauty he was witnessing. But there was no one beside him to nudge with his paw, no one to share a quiet sigh of awe with. He yearned, in a very small, very gentle way, to share this magnificent peace, this starry silence, with someone else. Just a knowing glance, a shared breath, would have made this moment even more perfect. The feeling, though fleeting, lingered like the faint scent of jasmine on the night air. Fenwick lowered his head slightly, his large ears swiveling, not for danger, but for comfort, for connection. He loved his own company, truly he did, but sometimes, even the most self-reliant little fox yearned for a shared experience, for a quiet companion to witness the world with. It was a soft ache, no more painful than the gentle tug of a feather in the wind, but it was there. Suddenly, a soft rustle, slow and deliberate, sounded in the thick papyrus reeds beside him. It wasn't the frantic scurry of a mouse, nor the sudden splash of a fish, but a measured, almost ancient sound. Fenwick's ears perked, his nose twitched, but there was no alarm, only a gentle curiosity. The rustling grew a little louder, a steady, deliberate push through the interwoven stalks. And then, from the parting green curtain of the papyrus, emerged an ancient, wise-looking Nile tortoise. It was unlike any tortoise Fenwick had seen before. Its shell was a tapestry of deep greens and browns, worn smooth in places by countless years and countless currents. Its eyes, deep-set and surrounded by ancient wrinkles, held a calm, knowing gaze that seemed to have witnessed centuries of sunrises and sunsets over the Nile. The tortoise moved with an unhurried, almost stately grace, each step deliberate, each motion economical. It was an embodiment of patience, a living testament to the river's enduring flow. The tortoise didn't speak, not a single word. It didn't need to. It simply ambled out of the reeds, its heavy shell making a faint, dry sound as it brushed against the sandy bank. Then, with a slow, almost regal turn, it settled itself down a little distance from Fenwick, its ancient eyes gazing out at the very same starry river that had so captivated the little fox. It seemed to understand, without a single spoken syllable, the profound beauty of the moment. It was as if the ancient creature had been drawn by the very same quiet magic that had held Fenwick spellbound. In the shared, profound silence that enveloped them, under the vast, ancient Egyptian sky, Fenwick felt a warm, unspoken understanding pass between them. It was a moment of quiet connection, a gentle bridge built not of words, but of shared presence and mutual respect. The tortoise didn't intrude, didn't demand attention, but simply was there, a comforting, knowing presence. The quiet ache of loneliness that had just brushed Fenwick's heart dissolved, not with a sudden burst, but like morning mist, touched by the first rays of sun. It melted away, replaced by a deep, comforting sense of belonging, a peaceful warmth that settled in his chest. It was as if the universe had heard his quiet yearning and responded with this ancient, grounded companion. Fenwick felt a lightness he hadn't known he needed, a sense of having found a quiet harbor in the midst of a grand, open sea. The presence of the old tortoise was profoundly comforting, a testament to the idea that some of the deepest conversations happen without a single sound, in the quiet companionship of another living being. The night seemed to settle deeper, growing even more peaceful now that it was a peace shared. The old tortoise, after a long moment of simply gazing at the river and the stars, slowly dipped its head towards the water. Its wrinkled snout touched the surface, and with a soft, almost inaudible sipping sound, it took a long, unhurried drink. It was a simple act, yet it spoke volumes. It was a testament to life, to sustenance, to the eternal cycle that the Nile sustained. It was a moment of deep, primal connection to the very essence of the river. The water, which glittered with starlight, nourished the ancient creature, just as it nourished the vast land and all its creatures. Watching this simple, profound act, Fenwick understood something new, something deeper about his journey. He had set out with a vague sense of discovery, a yearning to see the world beyond his sandy home. He had imagined grand adventures, perhaps finding a shining treasure or solving a loud, complicated puzzle. But now, he realized, his journey wasn't about finding something dazzling or solving something complex. It was about discovering these quiet, precious moments of connection, these shared breaths of peace, these gentle understandings that didn't need words. It was about the wisdom found in silence, the warmth found in presence, and the beauty discovered in simplicity. The true treasures of his journey were not things he could hold in his paws, but feelings he could hold in his heart: wonder, belonging, and a quiet, profound calm. With a contented sigh, a sound almost as soft as the rustle of the papyrus, Fennec shifted on the sand. He moved a little closer to his silent, wise companion, not touching, but simply closing the small gap between them. He settled down, tucking his paws beneath him, his large ears twitching once more, this time not in curiosity, but in profound peace. A warmth spread through him, deeper than the lingering heat of the desert sun, warmer than any burrow he had known. It was a warmth born of quiet companionship, of shared wonder, and of a deep, sweet sense of belonging. He was no longer just observing the gentle journey of the Nile, he was fully, truly a part of it. He felt the ancient rhythm of the river in his very bones, the patient wisdom of the stars in his quiet thoughts, and the comforting presence of his silent friend beside him. The vastness of the night, which had briefly seemed to emphasize his smallness, now enveloped him like a comforting blanket. He closed his eyes, feeling the gentle caress of the night breeze on his fur, hearing the soft lapping of the river, and knowing, with a certainty that reached into his very dreams, that he was exactly where he was meant to be. A sweet, peaceful calm settled over him, promising the most wonderful dreams, dreams filled with starlight, ancient rivers, and the quiet, enduring comfort of true companionship. Chapter 6, Fenford Chapter 6. The Nile's Gentle Lullaby. As the very last, lingering sliver of twilight began its slow, graceful retreat from the wide sky, painting the distant western horizon in hues of rose gold and softest lavender, a hush, deep and ancient, began to settle over the vast, sleepy desert. Up above, the great round moon, like a watchful eye of pure silver, slowly, ever so slowly, began its silent, majestic ascent. It peaked first from behind a far-off dune, a shy crescent, then grew fuller, brighter, casting its serene, pearly glow across the sprawling sands and the dark, whispering waters of the Nile. And there, tucked away as snugly as a secret, amongst the tall, swaying stalks of papyrus reeds that stood like quiet sentinels, at the river's edge, our little desert fox, Foxy, had found the most perfect, most wonderfully sandy nook. It was a spot scooped out just so, sheltered from the softest desert breeze, and offering a splendid, unobstructed view of the moonlit river. Foxy's little nose twitched, taking in the cool, clear air that now carried the sweet scent of night-blooming flowers and the fresh, damp aroma of the river itself. It was an air that felt clean and crisp, like a gentle, cool breath upon Foxy's warm fur. Above, the stars, like countless tiny, scattered diamonds flung across a vast, inky blue velvet cloth, began to twinkle, one by one, then by the hundreds, then by the thousands. And oh, how they glittered! Each tiny point of light seemed to wink down at Foxy, a friendly, sleepy greeting. And just beneath them, reflecting every single one of those starry sparkles, lay the Nile, now almost mirror-still, a smooth, dark ribbon of liquid silver, stretching endlessly into the silent night. The stars shimmered and danced not just in the sky, but also right there, at Foxy's paws, in the calm, deep water. Foxy, feeling a delightful wave of weariness after a day of quiet explorations and gentle discoveries, gave a long, luxurious stretch. First one front paw reached out, claws unsheathed for a moment, then the other, feeling the muscles lengthen and unwind. A soft, contented sigh, like the gentlest puff of air, escaped Foxy's little muzzle. Then, with a slow, deliberate grace, Foxy began to curl, tail tucking neatly around warm paws, nose snuggled close to a soft, fluffy shoulder. Foxy's small body settled into the scooped hollow of the sand, which still held a whisper of the sun's warmth from the day. It was the kind of curl that spoke of absolute comfort, of knowing this was exactly the right place, at exactly the right time. As Foxy settled deeper, a profound, deep sense of peace began to settle over their small body, like a soft, invisible blanket of calm. It wasn't a peace that came from solving a puzzle or finding a grand treasure. No, it was a deeper, quieter kind of peace. It was the peace that comes from simply being, from simply at resting, from simply belonging. The gentle, steady flow of the river, which had been a constant companion throughout Foxy's quiet journey along its banks that day, now seemed to transform into something else entirely. It wasn't just water moving, no, it seemed to sing. It sang a soft, comforting lullaby, Shush, shush, ripple, hush, went the water, a murmuring melody, low and soothing, like a mother humming to her child. The sound filled the night, a timeless song that had been sung for countless generations of creatures and plants, and now, for our little Foxy, it was a song that promised safety and whispered of ancient dreams. And as that gentle lullaby flowed into Foxy's ears, all the sights and sounds of the gentle journey, the moments of quiet observation and gentle wonder, began to weave themselves together in Foxy's mind like threads in a beautiful, calming tapestry. Foxy remembered the soft, rhythmic rustling of the papyrus reeds. Not just the sounds they made, but the feeling of them, tall and proud, brushing against Foxy's fur as they walked silently past. Each rustle was like a secret whisper, a quiet greeting from the plant world. It was a memory of sunlight dappling through their green stalks, making patterns on the dusty ground, and the sweet, grassy smell that rose from their embrace. Then there was the distant, tender song of the farmer. Not a loud, boisterous song, but a soft, humming tune, carried on the morning breeze from far away. Foxy remembered pausing, ears pricked, listening to that human voice, a sound of work and quiet contentment. It was the song of someone caring for the earth, someone living in harmony with the rhythm of the river, just like Foxy had been doing, in their own Foxy way. That gentle tune had brought a sense of warmth, a feeling that even far-off human sounds could be comforting, not scary. Foxy remembered the quiet, sudden splash of fish leaping from the still surface of the Nile, just a quick shimmer of silver scales, a delicate disturbance of the perfect reflection, and then quiet again. It was a reminder of the bustling, secret life just beneath the water's surface, full of darting, graceful creatures, a secret world, visible only for a fleeting moment. And then, as Foxy's eyes grew heavy, drifting into the sweet realm of imagination, the grandest memory of all took shape. It wasn't something Foxy had truly seen, but something they had imagined, just as all little creatures do when their minds are free and full of wonder. Foxy imagined the majestic sunboat of RR, no longer a distant thought, but a vivid, golden vessel, slowly, majestically moving across the night sky. In Foxy's sleepy mind, this wasn't the sun, but Ra's boat itself, sailing on the river of stars, carrying the glowing orb of tomorrow's sun, pulled by unseen powerful forces through the deep, velvety expanse of the cosmos. It was a boat of light, of promise, of the coming dawn, slowly, surely moving towards the eastern horizon. All these memories, the rustling reeds, the farmer's gentle song, the quiet splash of fish, the magnificent sunboat of Ra sailing through the starry night of Foxy's imagination, they didn't jostle or jumble. No, they flowed together, as smoothly and peacefully as the Nile itself. They wove into a beautiful, calming tapestry, a rich fabric of sights and sounds and feelings, blanketing Foxy's mind in a soft warmth. Foxy closed their eyes, though not quite fully asleep yet, just on the very edge of slumber. Foxy felt the steady warmth of the earth beneath them, a silent, comforting presence. And even with eyes closed, Foxy could feel the quiet, ancient calm of the river nearby, a living, breathing presence that felt like the oldest, kindest friend. This journey, Foxy realized with a soft, sleepy sigh, hadn't been about finding something grand and flashy, like a hidden treasure or a shimmering oasis. It hadn't been about solving a big, complicated problem, like finding a lost path or overcoming a huge obstacle. No, it hadn't been about any of those things that usually make for exciting adventures. Instead, Foxy understood now, with a clarity as cool and clear as the desert night, this journey had been about something much simpler, and yet much more profound. It had been about a noticing, the smallest, most beautiful things, the way the moonlight painted the sand, the precise pattern of a ripple on the water, the delicate scent of a night-blooming flower. It had been about observing with a quiet, patient heart, letting the world unfold before them without hurry or demand. And most importantly, it had been about feeling, the deep, unbreakable connection to the world around them, to the cool earth, to the flowing water, to the ancient stars, to the very air that breathed around them. It was a feeling that Foxy was a small but perfectly essential part of this vast and wondrous world. The Nile, with its steady, constant, life-giving rhythm, had taught Foxy this quiet truth. It had filled Foxy's heart not with a wild, exciting thrill, but with a deep, quiet joy, a joy that bubbled up from within, like a hidden spring. And along with that joy, it had filled Foxy with a profound sense of belonging. The river didn't rush, it didn't hurry, it simply flowed, nourishing everything in its path, unwavering and constant. And Foxy, nestled beside it, felt just as constant, just as much a part of the grand flow of life. It was an awakening, a gentle unfolding of understanding to the simple, enduring beauty of nature, the beauty that doesn't shout or demand attention, but simply us is, in every tiny leaf, every grain of sand, every shimmering drop of water. And it was an awakening, too, to the gentle warmth of kindness that Foxy now felt flowed through all living things, just like the river itself. A kindness that wasn't always seen, but could be felt, like an invisible current, connecting everything and everyone, in a gentle, comforting embrace. With these peaceful thoughts swirling softly in their mind, Foxy drifted, ever so gently, off to sleep. In Foxy's dreams, there was the silvery path of the moonlight on the water, stretching like a shimmering bridge to distant, magical lands. And there were the soft, comforting whispers of the night, the wind sighing through the reeds, the distant hoot of an owl, the quiet shush-shush of the Nile, all singing their sweet, sweet lullabies. Foxy slept, a small, peaceful bundle of fur, under the vast, star-dusted sky of ancient Egypt. And so, dear friends, our little Foxy drifts off to sleep, filled not with grand adventures or exciting conquests, but with the quiet wonder and the gentle wisdom of the Nile. Just as Foxy found peace and a deep sense of belonging by the steady, comforting flow of the river, we hope you find peace and warmth, a quiet, gentle joy, in your own hearts tonight. Now, as the moon climbs higher and the stars shine even brighter, and as you snuggle down into your own warm, comfy beds, we wish you good night, dear friends, and sweet, sweet dreams. Perhaps before your own eyes grow heavy, you can tell us where on you are tonight, in your own special nook, and what makes your heart feel as warm and peaceful as Foxy's did by the ancient Nile. We'd love to hear from you in the comments below.